Hey there, Lincoln here from BoWAcademy.org, and I'm here today to ask you to please stop saving all of your money in a savings account. It is terrible for your growth of your wealth because the bank, the savings bank, they're taking all the money that you're keeping in your account and they're putting that into assets. They're investing your money into assets and they're retaining 99.99% of the returns and giving you 0.01% in interest and telling you that's a great thing and you should be saving all your money. The problem with saving all your money in a bank account, even if it's a high yield saving account like SoFi, like M1 Finance, like whatever bank account out there that tells you they have high interest rates and are good for your money, the problem is that your money becomes worth less every single year due to inflation. You are losing 2% of your money every year because the value of your money, the purchasing power of your money goes down thanks to inflation every year. And the Federal Reserve wants that to be around 2% over the long term. Sometimes it's 3%, sometimes it's 5%, sometimes it's 10%, sometimes it's 1%, and they want to average out to 2%. If you save all of your money in a bank account, you're losing value every single year, and your opportunity cost is very high because you're missing out on other opportunities to build your wealth, to get returns on your money, to make your money work for you. You could take your money and put it in the stock market, at least 10 to 15% of your income every year, and get 7 to 10% returns just by investing in a broad index fund like the S&P 500 that has done 7 to 10% over the last 100 years. Or if you're a little bit more risk on, you could take 15% of your money, maybe 20, 30%. Like myself, I do about 60% of my money, and I put it into high growth companies that are growing in revenues by at least 20 to 30, 50% every year. I am looking to double my money in 5 years, triple, maybe even quadruple or quintuple it, right? Or even 10x it over the next 5 to 10 years because I am still young. I can afford to take greater risk, and in return, I get great returns. I get to build wealth faster and more efficiently because I'm not just having my money sit and do nothing and lose value. I'm putting it to work and I'm taking more risk. So I expect in return to get greater returns, greater yields, to build my wealth, to increase my money supply, to increase the value of my portfolio. So here's a quick story before I tell you more about how to make better use of your money instead of having it all sit in a savings account. In 2019, I sold a business from college and I left my job. And when I did that, I had about $20,000 sitting in my savings account. And with the business sale, I got about $35,000 more. So I took about half of that, I took about $23,000, and I just threw it into the stock market for the very first time. I just threw it into companies that I was familiar with, into Tesla, into Cloudflare, into Beyond Meat. The reason I did that was because I realized after reading Rich Dad Poor Dad that I had to start investing. I had to make my money work for me. I left my job and I was trying to build my own business at the time. So I didn't really have much income coming in. But I knew that with all the money I had in my bank account, it wasn't going to be doing anything for me by just sitting there. So I took the half, I put it into the stock market, and over the next year, it grew by about 50%. And the other half I used to cover my expenses, about $3,000 a month. And that lasted me about 11 months. So I had enough money to use for living and for investing in my own business. And the rest of it that I didn't need in the short term, I just took it and invested it into the stock market because I knew that I could do much better on investing in assets than having my money just sit in the bank account and just losing value to inflation. That money grew by about 50% by 2020. And then in the next year, it grew to over $250,000. Of course, I added some more money, but not much more. So I was able to start with something relatively small, $23,000, and then grow that over 10x in a year. And if I had never invested, if I was too afraid to try invest in the stock market and try to get some return from whatever, even real estate or building my own business, I would still have today $23,000 sitting in my bank account. It would just be there still. Or I would have used it on something else. I would have bought something that I didn't need. I would then still be poor. And I wouldn't have all the wealth that I have today. And I wouldn't have this house because I took some of the money that I made from investing in the stock market and I reinvested it into a different asset. I took some of it and bought a house. So that $23,000 turned into a house plus $200,000 remaining to continue compounding my wealth. All because I chose to take all the money I didn't need in the short term and invest it. So now let's talk about the other part of this story, and that is having an emergency fund. So yes, you should have enough money to weather any storm that comes your way. And usually you want to have about 3 to 8 months of an emergency fund that will cover all of your expenses, your usual expenses, living expenses, and unexpected expenses that may come up. Once you have that, you should invest the rest of your money. You should be investing at least 10 to 15% of your income. And if you have more that's just sitting there, that should be invested too. Because you're still young. You have enough time to take risk, build wealth, and if you mess up, if you stumble, if you fall, you have time to get back up and try again. You have a high income coming in. And if you don't, you can go learn a new skill and increase your income. You still have time for that. You're not near retirement. You still have a lot of room left to take risk, to try things, to invest and build wealth that will enable you to in the future retire on your terms, unlike most people because they never invest. If you don't invest, you most likely will never be able to comfortably retire. You will have to work forever. Even if it's just a few hours a week to cover your expenses, that's still more than zero. And if you have to continue doing that into your 60s, your 70s, even 80s, that's no good. You want to invest now so that you can live the life that you want to when you want to. And that may be in your 40s, in your 50s, maybe early 60s and not late 60s. But preferably earlier than that, because let's be real, at 60, it's getting pretty late. That's when health problems really start to kick in. And now you have to take pills and you have to be on disability and you have other problems that might just pop up on you. And you can't live life freely and enjoy it. So I was scrolling through Instagram earlier today and I know it's not a good thing. I don't advise that you scroll through Instagram, but sometimes you find something inspiring. And today I found this post from an investment account that said, imagine playing Monopoly and just pass and go and collecting your $200, but never buying any assets that produce value, that bring in income. Imagine just going around the board and just collecting $200 and holding on to it forever. You would probably have lots of money by the end of the game if you survive long enough, but everyone else around you would have built up assets and just be living easy and collecting the money that you've been saving because they built the real estate assets. They built the hotels. And every time you pass on their board, you have to pay. And you, in real life, might have to rent forever because you never invested to build up enough wealth to buy a home, to buy a condo, to just live in and be yours and have equity in it and use it to fund your kids' college education, to use it to fund your business aspirations, to build your dream because you kept all of your money in a savings account. And worse than Monopoly, because Monopoly, your money doesn't lose value every year. But in this real life that we live in with the Federal Reserve, your money loses 2% of its value every single year compounded. So you start with $1, next year it's 98 cents, the year after that it's 96 cents, and so on and so forth, because that's how the system works and you can't beat it. All you can do is figure out how to offset it. If you're losing 2%, you have to at least get 2%. You have to then beat that 2% so that you can not only keep up, but to get ahead. And the way you do that is not by sitting on a bunch of money that you got from your job or from your business and hoping that you can retire on that and that one day you won't have to work. That's not how it works. If you never invest that money, it will stay the same amount, the absolute amount, but the value of it will go down. And even if it doesn't go down by 2% every year, it won't be enough to actually retire, because even if you save all of your income over 40 years, you're gonna have lots of expenses over that time. And when you're ready to retire, you never know what's gonna come up. You're gonna need a big nest egg in order to retire comfortably and not have to go back to work if some health problem comes up and you get a huge hospital bill, because we live in a society that doesn't have universal health care. That's a different story, but our society is very individualistic. If anything happens to you in the future, you're gonna need lots of money to weather that storm. People say money can't buy happiness, but what it buys is the experiences, the choices that you can make that then allow you to be happy, enable you to be happy. If you can choose not to work, I'm sure you will be happy with that choice. And if you could choose to do that sooner, why wouldn't you? And the way you do it is by taking at least 10 to 15% of your income, preferably more, maybe 30%. Stop spending all your money at the club. Stop buying things you don't need. You see that stuff back there? I probably don't need all of that. And I probably wouldn't have bought it if I wasn't doing YouTube and needed a nice backdrop. You shouldn't just be spending your money and saving it. You should put it into assets and build appreciation and build equity in assets, so that when you have enough equity over the long term, 10, 20 years, 30 years in the future, 40 years, you can take all that money, put it into dividend stocks, and then live off of the income, the dividends. That's when dividends become very valuable. But today you should be investing in high growth stocks. You should be investing in real estate. You should be investing in your own business, into yourself, increasing your knowledge, increasing your skills, learning new skills so that you can increase your income, get a better job, get that promotion, get that raise every year. And make sure that every year when you get a raise, make sure it's more than 2%, so that you're not only keeping up, but getting ahead of inflation. If you invest today, you'll be much better off in the future. And one more thing, remember that emergency fund? Yes, you can keep your 3 to 8 months of emergency fund in your bank account, savings account, so that if anything happens, you have enough funds to cover your expenses for that amount of time, 3 to 8 months, so you can find a new job or get back on your feet. But what if you could do even better? What if you could do better than having your money sit there, your emergency fund sit there, gaining only 0.01% or even 2% every year, then losing that 2% to inflation? What if you could perhaps get 7% returns on your emergency fund while it just sits there waiting for something bad to happen? What I do is I don't keep any savings. The only thing I keep is what I need to pay off bills every single month, plus miscellaneous and unexpected cost. So in case I want to buy something for my backdrop, or in case I need to buy some extra food because the food spoiled, or I need to buy a gift, right? That's the only money I keep. Everything else is invested. I invest 100% of my leftover money. Some of it into my own business, BoAcademy.org, into ManyStories.com, into PenSignal.com, into whatever I believe will create value for the world and bring me value back over the long term. And then the rest goes into the stock market, goes into real estate, goes into partnerships with my buddies and my partners, right? Buying a house. I couldn't have done this if I hadn't been investing. I would be sitting on $23,000 today had I not been investing. So instead of keeping all of my savings in a savings account, I take it and I put it into a safe portfolio and call that my emergency fund. All the money that I need for my emergency fund, my 3 to 8 months, I put it into S&P 500, into a tech stock index, into blue chip companies. And then I put a little bit of growth stocks in there like Tesla and Nvidia, Shopify, and Apple, because that's still a growth stock somehow. and Google and whatever else that I believe is safe and established, but it's still growing so that I can get some growth. And I at least get 7% every year. And even beyond that, I beat the market because I have some growth stocks in there, because I believe that in the worst case scenario, I will get 7% because most of my portfolio is safe. It's going to match the stock market. It's going to match the S&P 500 for the most part. But I have some growth stocks in there just so I can beat the market, so that I can get more than just 7%. Because I want my money to be working hard for me, even if it's an emergency fund. Because worst case scenario, I keep my principal and I lose any gains if those growth stocks revert, right? If Tesla reverts, if Nvidia reverts, if Shopify reverts. In most cases, I won't lose much more than my principal, if any at all, right? I'll keep my principal. So my emergency fund, all the money I put in there will likely be there for me if anything goes wrong. And if I lose 10%, I will probably be fine because I have other funds. I have other places that I can go get money if I do need it. And in the worst case scenario, all the money that I have in the stock market, it's all mine. I have access to it. So I can just go withdraw all of that in the very worst case scenario. If I need all my money, I can get it in 2 days. I can get it in 3 days. And in the meantime, I can borrow some money using my credit card, or asking family, or asking friends, or just going to a payday lender. In the very worst case scenario, do not do payday lenders unless you are out of all other options. But there's always options. People always say, what if? Well, you will handle that when that happens. When that comes, you will handle it. I've needed money in the past for an emergency. And with my emergency funding in my finance, it takes about 3 days. Between that time, I just use my credit card. I have a high balance in my credit card because I have high income, right? That's why I say you have to increase your income as well. So I use my credit card, and then once my emergency fund kicks in, I pay off that credit card. So that's worst case scenario. It happens, you deal with it. You never know what's gonna happen in the future, but you can't just act on what if worst case scenario happens. You need to plan for the best case, because that's most likely that you will live, that you won't be drastically hurt, and you will want to retire one day. But at the same time, make sure that you have an emergency fund in case anything goes wrong, in case you lose your money. But that emergency fund should not just be sitting there getting 0.01% from JP Morgan Chase or Wells Fargo or whoever else, or even SoFi, right? You want to put that money to work. Get 6%, 7%, 10%, maybe even 70%, like my emergency fund on M1 Finance. And our patrons at patreon.boacademy.org get to see my emergency fund. They get to see what's in there so that they can mimic it if they want. So that's what I recommend to anyone who asks me what to do with savings. Yes, you need to have some money saved in the emergency fund for bad days. But that money doesn't need to just be losing value over the year due to inflation. You need to always be beating inflation at all times. Never let inflation beat you, because if you don't offset it, it will keep you poor, and at worst, it will make you poorer. That's why the rich keep getting richer and the poor stays poor and actually gets poorer. So don't let that be you. Put your money to work. Invest it, invest it, invest it. That's all for now. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, do me a big favor, like the video below, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and comment your thoughts on savings and investing, and let me know what your emergency fund looks like and whether or not you are saving all your money in a savings account. And as always, these videos are brought to you by our patrons at patreon.boacademy.org, who support the channel financially and help me brainstorm new video ideas to share with all of you. Actually, this video was inspired by one of our patrons, Scott, who asked me earlier, how do I deal with an emergency fund? How do I deal with my savings? What do I do to make sure that I have enough money to cover my expenses, but still invest? And that's why I made this video. So thank you to our patrons for supporting this channel. And if you want to become a patron, you can join us at patreon.boacademy.org, and you will get more access to me, get direct access to your investing questions, and get to engage on Discord channel, where we share knowledge and discuss the stock market in real time every day by sharing news, rumors, and new investment ideas, so we can all do our own research and then come back together and collaborate. And you will have a chance at winning $200 every month just to be a loyal and engaged patron. So if you're interested in all of that, I hope to see you over at patreon.boacademy.org. I am Lincoln with boacademy.org. Thank you again, and have a great night.